Through you, Mr. Chair, I was requesting that staff, if they could kindly put the presentation up. I see that it's now up, so I can begin. Good morning, Mr. Chair, committee members, staff, and members of the public in attendance. My name is Amy Powell. I'm a registered professional planner and the Chief Planning Officer of Powell Planning and Associates. I'm also the agent representing the subject landowners on the applications requesting a severance and relief from the city's zoning bylaw in the form of minor variance. Next slide, please. These applications seek for the lands at 9 Rogers Road to be divided in half to facilitate future residential development. The subject lands are currently 0.19 acres in size with 15.9 meters of frontage onto Rogers Road. The lands are zoned residential single detached R1B, and there is an existing one-story single detached bungalow with a detached garage and rear yard shed on the property. The existing neighborhood has low to medium density residential uses, including parks with ample and varied commercial activity along Main Street. The lands are very well serviced by transit, have available water and wastewater, as well as regional waste collection services. There are no environmental, natural, or built heritage features on the site. Next slide, please. So the subject lands are located west of Main Street, north of Vaudon, south of Williams Parkway, and are within walking distance to downtown Brampton. This slide shows an aerial of the subject site, as well as its existing context and consideration of the city. Next slide, please. So the proposed development offers the creation of one new R1B residential lot, where it is anticipated that a single detached house where, in accordance with provincial policy direction, additional residential units can be built. Next slide, please. The variances being sought in this regard are relief of the minimum lot frontage from 15 meters to 8 meters on each respective lot, as well as relief for the minimum lot area of each lot, the first being from 450 square meters to 377 square meters and 399 square meters respectively. The remaining standards for the R1B lot will be respected through future development. Next slide, please. In accordance with Section 45(1) of the Planning Act, as identified in the Planning Justification Report and supported by staff through the review and analysis, the subject application well meets the 4 tests of a minor variance. This application is non-offensive to the zoning bylaw. It advances the policies of the City of Brampton's official plan. It represents redevelopment that offers attainable housing in an undersupplied market, therefore is desirable and serves the greater public good. And the variances being sought are all minor in nature. Therefore, this application represents good planning and passes the 4 tests of the Planning Act. Next slide, please. In conclusion, growth of this nature and scale is actually being mandated through Bill 23, which has been in force and effect since December 2022. The subject application offers the most efficient way to increase density where there are existing services. This development offers reinvestment to the community, an opportunity to better utilize existing services while respecting the neighborhood character in a community that is within walking distance to Brampton's most urban corridor, downtown Brampton. Healthy community planning dictates that single detached residential units on large-scale lots do not foster good planning. And where there are opportunities to redevelop underutilized lots, such as the subject site, good planning dictates that we foster development of this exact nature as being presented by this application. The application is sympathetic, it's of a high caliber of nature, and is contextually appropriate for the neighborhood. This application offers to add housing where it is meant to occur, as dictated by city, regional, and provincial governments. So there were points of opposition brought forward by residents on the subject street that were absent of any planning justification in accordance with the Planning Act, provincial, regional, or local policy direction. And we ask the committee through your decision to consider the benefits of fostering multifamily dwellings that allow for more affordable housing options, reinvestment into established neighborhoods, the health promoting principles that come along with increased density in areas that are well serviced by transit, density that fosters eyes on the street, which aims to increase community safety, and the benefits of having provincially mandated additional residential units that are attainable, legal, and safe. In the current housing market, ownership is not as attainable as renting, and this proposal can offer opportunities for both. As a registered professional planner, I believe that this application represents good planning, is contextually appropriate, and that all applicable policies and directions are being achieved through the subject application from all levels of government. We thank staff for the review and recommendations on the subject file, and we look forward to a favorable decision by the committee in support of the proposed application. Thank you everyone for your time this morning, and I'm happy to answer any questions as able.
Thank you, Ms. Powell, for your presentation. Committee members, any question, comment, concern at this point? Seeing, hearing none. For the record, we have some, before I go to staff, we have some correspondence, and I would like to acknowledge these letters we have attached one by one. I just want to know, the people who are in person, is anyone here to talk about this application? Okay, we have one lady here. Do we have someone online as well to talk about it? But so let me just go through one by one, and then I'll ask you to come forward. The first we have is from a family from 19 Rogers Road, Melanie and Jeff, strongly opposing this application. With the lot frontage, it's a characteristic of the neighborhood, stating their concerns. Then I would like to acknowledge the next one, which is Jennifer Lilly from 28 Rogers Road, opposing this application. Then we move on to the next one, which is Drew Manard, 23 Rogers Road, and stating their concerns in regards to the landlord has not been there, absentee landlords, managed by absentee landlords. I'll like to ask a bit more about that. Rental houses and illegal secondary apartments, lodging houses. Then Todd Sergeant, property owner, number, I don't really see the property, but one of the neighbor, and stating their concerns. I have gone through these letters, and so has the fellow committee members. Then the next one we have is Kyla and Jamie Porter from 30 Rogers Road, and stating their concerns as displayed on the screen. We have gone through this one as well, and put forward some legitimate concerns as the concerned neighbors. Ma'am, can you please come forward if you don't mind? Yes, please. Yeah. Your full name and address for the record, please. Across, right?
Across.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, please. Did you send a letter as well?
No.
Okay. Please go ahead.
I just have a few quick concerns to address.
Sure.
All the neighbors, we're not city planners. I understand this seems like a good plan, and our concerns are real world. I think people should be able to do, to an extent, what they want on their property, but so I'm in two minds of this. Parking half a tire on a piece of grass on our property is a concern to the city of Brampton because apparently grass is disappearing in Brampton.
Yeah.
There's a huge tree, beautiful mature tree on 9 Rogers Road that I'm assuming would have to be cut down. So I'm not sure the justification there between the grass and cutting down a tree. The other concern is I tried to find some information on the impact of severing land on a neighborhood and having 2 houses on that piece of property. And I wasn't able to, so I'm just wondering if you have any information on the impact of this on a neighborhood. And also concern with renting. I don't have anything against renting.
Mm-hmm.
However, we've had issues with renters on our street, as our councillors are aware of. And finally, I lost my last point.
No problem. Is
Yeah.
this property is also tenanted in your now because you're right across, or you are there?
We own 10 Rogers Road.
Sorry?
I'm an owner.
No, I'm talking about
Oh.
this subject property, 9 Rogers Road.
It has had renters. I'm not sure right now. Right now it's vacant, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. No problem. Anything else you would like to add?
I think that's it for now, yeah.
If you can please step back and have a seat here, maybe at the first row.
Okay.
That's the VIP row, by the way. All right. If you ever need to add anything, you're more than welcome to come back. Thank you. Committee members, any question at this point, or should we go to the staff report first? Okay. Staff, could you please weigh in your comments? But before I go quickly to Mr. Campbell, is there any enforcement complaints or anything, how the property has been?
Through you, Mr. Chair, this property itself, there is not. The public have mentioned a number of issues on the street, and I was able to see that there's quite a few complaints, mainly due to garbage in the area, but nothing specific to this property.
Okay, thank you. Staff, could you please weigh in your comments? Read the staff report, please.
Thank you. Through you, the Chair, staff have reviewed and find that application B-2023-001 is supportable, subject to the following conditions being imposed. Number 1, that a Secretary Treasurer certificate fee shall be paid in the amount current at the time of issuance of the Secretary Treasurer certificate. Number 2, that approval of the draft reference plans as applicable shall be obtained at the Committee of Adjustment office, and the required number of prints of the resultant deposited reference plans shall be received. Staff recommend that condition number 3 be excluded as it is not required and was an error. Number 4, arrangements satisfactory to the Region of Peel Public Works shall be made with respect to the location of existing and installation of new services and or possible required private service easements. Number 5, please be advised that as of July 1st, 2021, the Region of Peel has a consent application processing fee where regional conditions apply. Prior to releasing regional clearance of consent approval, a non-refundable processing fee of $1,435 is required as per the region's user fees and charges bylaw. Number 6, please note that the proposed severance line runs through the existing dwelling unit. A demolition permit for the existing house shall be obtained and demolition completed prior to the completion of the severance application and issuance of the certificate from the Committee of Adjustment Secretary Treasurer. Number 7, prior to the demolition of the home, the applicant shall provide a Stage 1 archaeological assessment and Ministry of Sport, Tourism, Culture letter confirming the archaeological assessment report has been entered into the Ontario Public Register of Archaeological Reports for all lands within the subject application and shall mitigate adverse impacts to any significant archaeological resources found to the satisfaction of the City and the Ministry of Sport, Tourism and Culture. Number 8, where the Region of Peel waste and recycling bins are not permitted to be stored outside, residences are to accommodate these waste and recycling bins. If these bins are to be accommodated within garages, the applicant or owner is to provide garage drawings confirming the functionality of garages while accommodating these waste and recycling bins. A functional design of the driveways and garages is required. The garage dimensions are to accommodate a parked vehicle as well as to accommodate and maneuver the municipal waste and recycling bins while a vehicle is parked. Number 9, the applicant or owner shall ensure that all above ground utilities are offset a minimum distance of 1.5 meters from all proposed driveways and indicate as such on a revised sketch. Number 10, the applicant has indicated to city staff that they intend to preserve and protect the mature tree located in the front yard of 9 Rogers Road. The applicant shall adhere to the City of Brampton Tree Preservation Bylaw 317-2012. Should the mature tree located in the front yard of 9 Rogers Road be removed, the applicant shall obtain a tree removal permit and or provide tree compensation to the satisfaction of the City of Brampton Urban Forestry Department. Those are the conditions staff are recommending for the consent application. Now for the related minor variance application, staff have reviewed and find that application A-2023-003 is supportable subject to the following conditions being imposed. Number 1, that the extent of the variances be limited to that shown on the sketch attached to the notice of decision. And number 2, that failure to comply with and maintain the conditions of the committee shall render the approval null and void. For the other minor variance applications, staff have reviewed and find that application A-2023-0034 is supportable subject to the following conditions being imposed. Number 1, that the extent of the variances be limited to that shown on the sketch attached to the notice of decision. And number 2, that failure to comply with and maintain the conditions of the committee shall render the approval null and void. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Duffler, you have any question or comment? Please go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Chair, thank you. Just first a question to the staff. Is one of the letters mentions a historic district. Is this in fact a historic or under heritage review, the street or any of the properties?
Through you, the Chair, the subject lands are located in a mature neighborhood. It is not a listed or a designated property under the City of Brampton's Heritage Register, but it is located in a mature neighborhood, and the official plan does talk to policies speaking to the general size, the type, the style of the dwellings, and as well as being consistent with the setbacks and orientation of the dwelling to the neighborhood. And the application will be reviewed by urban design staff through the Custom House Architectural Control application review process to ensure that they conform to the architectural style and massing of the surrounding area.
You have another one?
Not a question, but comment.
Okay. You want to hold? Okay. I have a couple of questions in regards to the concerned neighbors' letters and about the tree, the big mature tree. Why there's no arborist report on this one? Did the staff ask at any point to the authorized agent to provide one?
Through you, the Chair, the applicant has indicated that they do intend to preserve the tree, and we have included a condition that the tree be preserved, and it is a private tree, so if they do wish to remove that tree, that they do provide either compensation or that they provide compensation. But the applicant has indicated that they intend to preserve the tree.
Intention is one thing, but presenting a report is the second. The another question I have, since this is a mature neighborhood, and it's not really a big lot, it's 50 feet, but it's a pie shape, so the frontage is really narrow. That total is about 45 feet, and putting two detaches quite a bit of lot coverage and congested, in my opinion. The question I have is, once both the properties are, let's say, it's divided into two, and the amount of structures are going as a proposed layout, I believe there will be good compromise for the lot coverage. And the mature neighborhood has already less lot coverage compared to the other neighborhoods. Any comment on that from the staff?
Through you, the chair. The existing lot is irregular in shape, and
Yep.
so the severance would create a rectangular lot that is considered to be more consistent with the shape, the size, and the lot dimensions within the surrounding area, which ranges in lots that are large in size to lots that are also smaller in size.
But what I want to know is, because when the two structures is going to put on this one lot, right now it's a small bungalow. And at this point, I know they need to come up with the site plan in the future, in the event if this approved. Then for sure there will be an issue of the lot coverage at that point. Does anyone can comment on that?
Yeah, through the chair. So the zoning bylaw, as of right, has no maximum lot coverage requirement for this zone. There are minimum landscape open space requirements, which is 60% of the minimum front yard area of an interior lot, 70% of the minimum front yard area of a corner lot, and 50% of the minimum interior front yard of a lot where the side lot lines converge towards the front lot line. So as of now, that variance isn't identified. There will be the custom home application process, where we'll ensure, obviously, or through our urban design staff that actually conduct that review, we'll ensure that the proposed development conforms to the performance standards of the zoning bylaw. So at this time, it appears to be satisfactory and conforming to the performance standards. Obviously, that'll be further reviewed through the custom home application, but it's not something we can fully comment on yet because we don't have the finalized design of the home.
The other concern I have is, I know it says the frontage is somewhere around 50 feet. In actuality, because of the irregular shape, by the curve, it is about 45 feet frontage. The way you calculate here is you are taking the measurement from 6 meters from the curve. But to putting two detached dwellings on this lot at the frontage, there will be only the driveway the way it proposed. And just putting, and then we're dealing with the whole setbacks and everything. And because in actuality, even according to this, I see it's showing that 8 meter wide frontage altogether is plus minus 15 point change meters. And they're saying, okay, it's going to be 50 feet lot to begin with. The detached normally, whether you go to the custom homes or you go to any subdivision, even if you put single car garage detached, the minimum some sort of, and again, I'm not talking about this particular application, I'm talking in general, is somewhere 28 to 30 feet frontage for a single garage detached dwelling. If you actually putting together a garage, because you need to deal with the setbacks as well on the both sides. Dividing this into two, you're dealing with setbacks on both sides of each individual dwelling. I'm a bit concerned about that. You're leaving 1.2 meter plus minus on each side of each proposed dwelling. You're losing almost 4 meters frontage, 4+ meters actually frontage. Even, okay, I get it. You got to leave one side 1.2 meter, another side a little bit less. And then the way I see it at the back, one thing I'm convinced that the lot depth is quite a bit, like it's a 40 meter on one side and 35 and 36 in the middle in the proposed. But at the same time, this is a pie-shaped lot, which is really narrow, leaving each proposed dwelling approximately 22 feet at the front. And that means you're going to push the structure way back. You can't really put at the front close to the street. And the way I see it, the characteristic of the neighborhood, particularly in this street where we have the small bungalows, and with the extensive lot coverage, I understand the authorized agent in the presentation put together some nice comments and, talks about, she mentioned about the housing affordability and the supply and the new bill. I get it, but at the same time, to me, the amount of items being requested into this is one out of these 4 tests. I'm not convinced with the characteristic of the neighborhood, if that is meeting. So that is my one concern I have, that even though I have seen many applications, we have seen, not just I have seen, my apologies, we have seen many applications where people in the mature neighborhood come and ask for a little bit of bigger structure. And sometimes I see the oppositions, and I am fully understandable that if instead of 2 houses, proposed houses, if they come up with one little bit bigger structure, there will be concern from the neighborhood, because the people, they don't want to see the change in their neighborhood. They are afraid of, if a bungalow owner is next door and somebody is planning to put together a 2-story structure, the next door neighbor doesn't like it, because they are so used to for their street and their immediate neighborhood. But I'm more lenient towards that, and I guess the committee and the staff, because first of all, you don't need the bylaw. No one is stopping you if you want to put together a 2-story structure. But even I'm further open for a little bit extra lot coverage, because it's a bigger lot, or even at the smaller lot, because you got to do the math with the dollar value, whether it's really worth for you to put together the structure, adding on to the property. But in this case, putting 2 properties, creating 2 narrow lots, that is not fit according to the street, to this neighborhood. And these are my concerns. Ms. Stauffer, do you have something to add? Please go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. I suppose I have comments more than questions at this point. I have 3 concerns with this property and the way it's being proposed for development. One, this property is right at the curve of the street. It's a fairly small section of street. I happened to go there after the big snowfall and lots of snow piles sitting there, so it seems even tighter. But I cannot imagine having 2 driveways at that particular spot in the street. So that would be a concern in terms of traffic. Secondly, based on what the chair has been saying, I agree. I foresee that the full lot frontage will be driveway to accommodate 2 cars. The width of each property is 8 meters, which is about the width of a driveway. So I think I can say with complete justification it's mostly driveways that we'll see at the front. That doesn't tie in with the character of the street at all. And secondly, I was struck by the character of the street. There are many beautiful areas in the city of Brampton, but this happens to be a really quaint street. All the homes seem to be the same size, but they have a unique character, and that character is punctuated with the treescape. And I see trees being removed would affect the character of the street. I see one lot being filled with driveways right at the street front would create quite a deviation from the character. I will piggyback onto my members' comments, not in the same detail, but just character and treescape are very important to any neighborhood. And I think this would completely disrupt that. I think we've shown as individual members and as committee we are pro-development, and we can understand that there are changes that necessarily take place in society and within cities, within subdivisions, and within particular streets. But this street, I think, really, I've never been down the street. It's really a jewel. Everybody on the street should be commended because they're beautiful homes. They each have unique character. From what I could see, they're well maintained. There's lots of snow piles, so it's what I could see above the snow. But to me, that is worth preserving, and for those reasons, I do not find that this is desirable for the area or for the neighborhood, and I do not find that it's minor in nature, so I could not support this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Toffler. Staff or any person in the public or anybody has any other comment? Sorry, are you in regards to this development as well? Please come forward. Sure. No, that's okay, no problem. You're the neighbor. Your name and address for the record, please.
Speak. Our concern is the areas are changing. Brampton is changing. We have a really unique, as you said, area, and it's striking when you come to that area. We've had so many problems in the area with multifamily dwellings, rentals, illegal second parts in the city that the mayor was actually on the street with Chief Nish to address this. We've had people who are longtime residents of the city who have left Brampton specifically because there's been so many problems on the street with developments like this. Multifamily units have, whatever you want to call them, that they've left and they haven't come back. And the trend is increasing, and our fear is this little neighborhood that we have is being destroyed simply for profit by dividing these small lots into even smaller lots. And our concern now is we're going to have 2 lots with just driveways. And what are these houses or multifamily dwellings? Are they apartments? Are they sixplexes going in there? We have no idea, but we can't imagine taking down trees, dividing a small lot into smaller lots, but just having driveways in the area. And the residents, have you seen, they're quite upset, and rightfully so, because we've got a lot of pride in the area, and we're maintaining the area. These are older homes from the 50s. We love the area. I've been there for 24 years. I've seen people come and go, but the amount of change that we've had that have been, let's just face it, illegal with dwellings in the neighborhood has become rampant, and people are leaving, and we don't find that this is going to add to the neighborhood at all. The comment that the applicant had made about the more eyes on the street, we've had more crime in the area, specifically from multifamily dwellings, and rentals has gone sky high. I think bylaw, we've spoken to bylaw, where one house within 6 months, we had over 400 calls. That's not
Sorry, say that again?
400 calls.
From one house?
From one house. To the point where we had meetings
Is
with
it property standard calls or the
neighborhood had called on these properties that were involved. We had drug dealing. We had councillors Rowita Santos and Paul Vicente come down to have a street meeting where Mayor Brown attended as well, and assured us that he realized that things like this shouldn't happen in the neighborhood, and gave us his personal pledge as well as Chief Nish's pledge that they would slow down this kind of thing to keep the character of the neighborhood.
Your concerns are genuine. I agree with you personally.
They're heartfelt.
Right, but I just want to remind you that majority of the concern you have mentioned respectfully, that does not applicable at this table.
Well,
where we are here
sure,
with the
and
decision.
in reference to the application, why I bring that up is because
as a homeowner, you're fully genuine. You're stating your concerns because the city of Brampton and you're here, and some of these concerns, obviously the overall. But what we are here in regards to the characteristic of the neighborhood, the street, and the size. Where my concerns are, as I said, is more of the planning standpoint, or how it's going to be impact on the neighborhood.
Well, if I could, respectfully, I don't mean
Please.
to interrupt, but if I could redirect, our concern is this is not a minor variance. This is a large variance where basically lot size, driveway size, mature trees, everything, we're not even sure what kind of dwelling they're going to put on there. I don't see how big a house you can put on a tiny lot divided by two. We can't even fit two driveways on there, and that's my concern. This is not a minor variance, and I think that's the reason why the letters are coming up, and all that I've mentioned maybe it as a side note, but it seems to be more of a cash grab than an addition to the community and to the flavor of the community by doing something like this. I can't imagine what they're going to build on two tiny slivers after they put two giant driveways on there. And I think that's my concern is it's not a minor variance, and it does not go with the character of the community, if I could sum it up with that.
But one thing, let's say, like I'm not just saying in particular to you because two of you come from the same street, but if let's say and we have seen this over our time on this committee, any mature neighborhood, whenever somebody, because people are so used to for the same, if they come for even one house, for a second story, two-story dwelling, a little bit larger.
Sure.
And I'm sure the neighbors would have the same concerns, but we always look into those things.
I'm sympathetic that I live in one of the houses that has a very large addition on the back.
Yeah.
And I understand that, not a lot of houses have that large addition on the back. But it fits with the character. And, of course, there's that fear, like, well, if there's one house and there's two houses and everybody does it and it changes the scope of the neighborhood, the feel of the neighborhood, but we don't feel that this adds anything to the neighborhood at all. And it is not a minor variance. I'm not a city planner. I'm certainly not a bylaw official or a building official, but as far as the zoning goes, this seems like asking for a mile instead of a minor variance. It simply does not add to the character of the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public or anybody else wants to make a comment to whether, Ms. Powell, you want to have any comment or you want to respond to some of these concerns?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And for the members of the public that voice their concerns, they're very well intaken. With regards to character of the neighborhood, the keywords there are neighborhood and character. And with what makes a character unique and what makes it interesting is the diversity of housing stock. If you not only look at Rogers Road, there are diversified houses on Rogers Road, but the greater area in itself also requires some attention to diversification of the built form. Archibald Street, for example, has a mix of bungalows, two-story, wider lot, two stories. There's not a lot of uniformity overall, and that's what contributes to character as well as uniqueness as well as interest. With regards to the comments that the frontages of these homes would be widely seen as just driveways, the site does have its limitations, and that's why we're before the committee to seek relief. That's the entire purpose and notion of committee of adjustment, is to seek relief for an existing standard that may not be up to date with regards to local, provincial, and regional policies. And I emphasize, when making a planning decision, we have to seek what the planning good is. The overall planning good is that this province is in a housing crisis, and we have landowners that are willing to reinvest, which is actually a positive attribute to this neighborhood, to this community. There's an opportunity to reinvest in this neighborhood to improve the existing housing stock in a sympathetic nature. As staff commented, there will be very stringent urban design guidelines and redevelopment guidelines that we will absolutely have to adhere to, not following the completion of the severance as a condition of approval. So if we don't meet the asks of the many city departments that are going to have eyes on this application and recommending their approval or their refusal, then the application as a consent does not even get approved. So I just wanted to share some of those comments to the benefit of the public in attendance. We've made an acknowledgement that that tree in the front is to remain. And if it's not a possibility through, again, moving forward with detailed design, then staff will seek compensation. It's written right in the conditions. So again, yes, there are design limitations, but we're looking to move forward with the application's approval so that we can test that burden of proof. What can be designed on these lands and how can it be done in a very sympathetic nature? So those are just my comments to some of the points of opposition and questions of concern before you today. We have a favorable staff approval, and I would just ask for the committee, under the guise of the Planning Act, to take those matters into concern. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, for the ability to speak to some of the points that were raised following my presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Powell, for shedding some light and further comment. Your comments are very well taken. Just I need to comment on two things, but I'll just comment on one, and then Ms. Dopfer has some comments to make. I get it. We are in the shortage of housing supply, and there is a push to create more dwellings. I completely get it, and I'm fully sympathetic. But we have basement apartments for that. We have garden suite for that. To put congested, there are ways to put together more dwellings, and I guess everyone is working on it. The creating tiny lots, and that's not the ultimate solution. If it's desirable, end of the day, if the staff knows and the people who deal with us, we are mainly pro-development, because we believe that, things are not the same as it used to be 10 years back. And whether sometime residents are not, the neighbors are not agree on that, because as I said earlier, like, people don't like change, especially where they live. So, or where they work, I guess. So, because we are used to it, but where, like, the comments came, I get it, but to me it's a tiny 45 feet at the curve, and then splitting into two. As I said, if lot coverage is 30% in the mature neighborhood, is that correct?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that is correct.
30%, right? If the property owner or the authorized agent comes for 35% of lot coverage, but coming with one dwelling, I bet the neighbors still would complain that, oh, this is a big structure, this is a big house, because they don't want so big homes on their street, especially if the structures are small. But I'm okay with that, because I see if it makes the case properly or not. Someone is going through the demolition, someone wants to put together, they look for their future, like 10, 15, 20 years from now, who's going to live in this structure? No one likes to lose or plan to lose anything, especially when you're planning and you are on the driving seat. And even if the neighbors are not okay with it, I'm personally okay with that, right? So anyway, I have one more comment to make, but I'll quickly go to Ms. Dolfer. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. Just in response to character, I do agree that having unique homes of different types certainly add to character. But what actually struck me about this street, especially the side on which this lot is that every home seems to be about the same size, seems to be set back from the front of the street, the same distance, seems to be positioned in the middle of the lot. I could be completely off here, but this is what I saw. It's a visual thing. Character is something you see and something you feel. And yet each of those homes have a completely different character. So the repetition of size, positioning along the street makes the character, and then each of the homes have their own character around the facade. And lastly, the trees add to that character. If anybody knows Royal York Road between Bloor and Dundas, it's the street that I most think about. It's also a street I'm very familiar with for many, many years. But for those that don't know, there are trees on both sides, very, very mature trees, and they create a canopy over the street. Once you start to take a tree away or 2 trees away, you lose the character of the street. So it's not just saving trees to save a tree. This is also to save the character. And that tree at the front of that lot, I cannot imagine how that can be retained if you have 26 feet wide lots, and even if your driveway is 22 feet, you have very little room between the 2 lots to be able to preserve that tree. Certainly, you will damage the roots. So for all those reasons, I'm very much in support of maintaining the character of this street, which includes the way the homes are positioned, the size of the homes, and not having fully fronted by a driveway or 2 driveways. And so in my reckoning, it does not meet 2 of the 4 tests. It is not desirable for the area, and it is not minor in nature. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair, the property owner wishes to speak.
Sure.
Kimba, I've unmuted you. Please
Hello?
go ahead.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Kemba Williams.
Sorry, can you please speak a bit loud? I can see the name Kemba Williams. Am I correct?
Yes, that's correct, yes.
Please go ahead, Ms. Williams.
Can you hear me clearly?
Yeah, if you
Okay.
can try
So,
to speak a little bit loud, that'll help, but we can hear you.
Okay. I believe we really took a long time to look at this property and see what would fit with the neighborhood. Detached homes would fit with the neighborhood because every house on the street is a detached home. We took the time to assess what Bill 23 is asking for in terms of more density. This home is within walking distance to downtown, within walking distance to transit. A home that has the detached home, it fits with what is being asked and what is needed in the neighborhood. And adding the ability for families to share, whether you're a tenant or whether you're a family with grandparents or children growing up who want to stay close to home because they can't afford to go out and buy, to have a home or homes built in the area that allow for that and then allow for more density. And also the fact that this plan was reviewed by the city multiple times in terms of all the city staff, all the city departments have looked at the plan and said, this makes sense for what we're trying to achieve in Ontario as a whole. And then I'm surprised that there's so much opposition to the idea of having beautiful brand new homes in the neighborhood built well, increasing the value of not just the specific lot, but the neighbors' homes as well, because this is not going to detract from the value of what is in the neighborhood. It's just going to add to it from a value perspective. And I guess I'm saying that we've spent a lot of time thinking about the plan that will go here to meet the needs of the city and to meet the needs of the province. And so I hope that you can see that the plan has merit and that we'll do that.
Thank you.
We also walked the neighborhood, and I also spoke to other neighbors on Archibald who did agree that it would be a good idea. They're not on Rogers Road specifically, but they are in that neighborhood, and they're okay with the change. And there have been other properties built up on Archibald which have been improved the value of the whole neighborhood. So I think it's all in line with what is trying to be achieved as a province and as a country. We need more places for people to live, and so I think this will help. And the plan for the frontage of the house in terms of how it fits in with the neighborhood. We want to design it, and we have a plan to make sure that it aesthetically fits with the neighborhood. And the tree is almost in the middle of the lot. So that allows us to save the tree because it's not going to interrupt either driveway that's going to come on either side. So that's just
Okay.
feedback.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. I understand. Like we deal with this on regular basis, and I'm fully. I'm here for that cause. That okay, we need more houses, we need more dwellings, but even any property we have here, as long as as long as it's not stackable townhomes, or I'm not talking about the condo apartments, whether you have a semi-detached or a detached property in this municipality, you can have basically, and staff please correct me if I'm wrong, you can have 3 dwellings right now under the Act, including the basement apartment is second dwelling, and with this new garden suite. Or I guess maybe there was, I think, 1 or 2 occasions the garage can be additional dwelling or something. Am I correct on that?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Currently, there would be a potential for 3 units on this property, a second unit within the home and a garden suite. In the coming months, there'll be the possibility of 2 basement apartments within the dwelling without a garden suite.
Yeah.
It is possible, provided that you still maintain 2 parking spots on the driveway, that you can convert your garage into living space. But typically, it's done in the basement.
Yeah. So thank you. Appreciate your input always. My position is with Ms. Dorfler on this application as proposed. Again, I'm not who does not believe in the change. I don't live in that street, but I think we spent good enough time for many, many years now, and very proud live and work in this city, all of us. The thing here, if you look at the lot width for this R1B zone requirements, 15 meter, and the proposed is plus minus 8 meters. It's 50%, almost 50% reduction. So I get it, like, the property owner at this point, intentions are to highest and best, whatever they can use the maximum, as I see in this scenario. But at the same time, if this is like 55 or 60 feet lot, and I bet you even the neighbors make any case, I would be more sympathetic. Okay, this may be achievable by creating 2 lots. Having said that, 45 feet, touching the curve, you're pushing back the dwelling, and then multiple dwellings in each side, 22 feet, you're only one driveway to another one, and that is something stopping me to raise my hand and agreeing on this proposal. So these are my comments at this point, I guess. If there is anybody else wishes to speak for the final before I move on, and I ask the opinion of my committee members for any motion here. Anybody who wishes to add on something for quick, you have the last time. Sir, I saw your hands up.
Yeah, I'm sorry, there's one last thing about the tree.
Okay, please come forward quickly. And anyone who's joined online, if they have something to add on, please be ready.
I've noticed many of you are looking at the Google Maps. There is a hydro pole right on the property as well. So I'm not sure how we're going to deal with the hydro pole. They were talking about the tree being the center, and then there's driveways. There's also a hydro pole right in the front. So I don't know if we're going to do that variance on top of that, dealing with everything else. Just maybe a small point, maybe it's a large point. Like I said, a little fish out of water, but I'm not sure how we deal with that on top of everything else. So
Oftentimes they are just with the hydro, a little bit pole here and there. Obviously, if they are putting two driveways, that means the pole is going to one of the neighbor's property, right? And maybe one of the neighbor would not like that, right? But
just something we saw.
That is something is movable, in my opinion, unless someone wants to correct me if I'm wrong. But thank you for your input.
thank you.
If anybody else wishes to add on anything, you're more than welcome for quick. If not, I'll move ahead. Anybody? I would ask for the final time. Anybody wishes to add anything? Okay. Committee members, I guess we have enough discussions. Looking for any of the comment, or please go ahead, Mr. Offord.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, Mr. Chair, I'd like to put forward a motion to refuse this application.
We have a motion by Ms. Stoffler to refuse this application. Do we have seconder? Second by Mr. Cope. I would ask all in favor. And this is carried unanimously, and this application is refused. Ms. Powell, thank you for your time and for your presentation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.